I've been asleep for 5,000 years. Boy howdy, I hope I didn't miss Halloween, being as that's like my whole shtick. Let me just check my calendar. Goodness fucking gracious! I've missed both Halloween and Christmas, but only if I could do both at the same time. Eureka! I've got it! The Ginger Dead Man with Gary Busey. Today I'll be talking about the cult classic Black Christmas. You see, it's like a white Christmas, except it's black. And what's scary about that, Bob Clark, you fucking bigot? This film is already a fairly well-known horror classic, mainly due to how it came before both Jason or Mike Myers, so it's got a reputation of being ahead of its time. I first watched this film back a couple years ago, and honestly I only found it to be decent. It's a pretty straightforward movie without many bells or whistles. I at least recognized it was beyond your boring old no direction, no style slasher to me. It was like The Elderly, you know, admirable, respectable being at their age, but in the grand scheme of things, fucking useless. Until now, I've grown to realize that this old rust bucket holds a lot of horsepower just under the hood. And watch out, matey, there be spoilers afoot. The whole plot could take hours to explain with all its detailed minutia, but I, Ghoulie the Quick, can do it in like 12 seconds.
Let's go.
Sorority house on Christmas. All the girls are drinking
milk and cookies.
And a
naughty elf
comes in and proceeds to
give everyone presents.
And Christmas is
jolly.
Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas!
Not bad. Fuck my juicy fingers.
Though for a Christmas horror movie, plot doesn't really revolve around the holidays. The killer isn't Krampus, a snowman, or that dastardly Grinch fellow. He's just a guy. I could see this being a flaw to most people, as I too originally wanted a more gimmicky holiday horror. The movie's not really campy at all. It has humor, but it focuses more on its slow, creeping pace. So if you want that bullshit, go watch like Silent Night, Deadly Night or something. Garbage PU. The season is more of a general vibe and dark contrast than an actual plot point. You could still have the movie not take place during the holidays, but that would take away from its atmosphere. The warm, shining lights, kids a-caroling, and jolly old Saint Nick.
Bitch. Isn't Santa naughty?
Ho, ho, ho.
All contrasts against the relatively realistic death scenes. So I still think the holiday setting really helps the movie. As much as I am an enjoyer of camp, I feel like having people getting stabbed by candy canes or other dumb bullshit just wouldn't fit the tone the movie achieves. Though I would like to see an alternative version where the incel maniac kills Santa so Jess and Barb have to deliver all the presents and save Christmas.
Are you telling me this clown is a level 4 naughty lister?
A level 4 naughty lister?
The cast is actually likable to the point where you don't want them to die, which is nice. You got Claire, whose actress got casted to play a corpse, even though I think Peter would have been better cast as a cadaver. You think you get a tan from that black hole, but I suppose not. They were running low on final girls, so they shipped in Jess from England. Most of the inner drama revolves around her, which is helped by the fact that Olivia Hussey is a talented actress, helping it feel like something that's not just there to stall for time. But most importantly, her outfit looks cool, which is the greatest tell of character writing. Mrs. MacDonald, the old mistress, is pretty entertaining, especially seeing what new hiding place she has for her beloved booze. I was hoping by the end we'd see a Pee Wee Herman-ass contraption, which provides her with her beloved Gronk. But alas, she got hooked by an incel.
Oh, a big one!
Mr. Harrison is the perfect straight man to the comedy, reflecting everyone with a 1,000-yard stare. Then there's the funny cops with B-movie legend John Saxon, and Officer Nash is there too.
All the stars are here!
I enjoy how Nash is just one asshole at work that everyone hates. They obviously needed the cops to not believe the girls at first, but instead of all the cops conveniently being dicks, it's just him. Details like that make the world feel a bit more realized. There's the other girls at the sorority, like Phil. Phil is pretty cool. And classic character non-believer Betty, are you sold yet? But by far, the star of the show is Margot Kidder as Barb. She steals every scene she's in by smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, and being based. She's a prankster. She feeds a child liquor. What harmless fun. Too bad we didn't get the scene where she sold cigarettes to preschoolers. She's also the only one to not be intimidated by the incels' phone calls. I like Jess well enough, but I do wish Barb was the main character and had more screen time. She literally falls asleep halfway through the movie and is still the best character.
There's a certain species of turtle that can screw for 3 days without stopping. 3 days? No, really, they just 3 days, 24 hours a day.
Holy fuck! I'm coming!
Do you know how I know this? Because I went down to the zoo and I watched them. I didn't stay for the whole 3 days. I went over and I watched the zebras.
What the fuck?
Premature ejaculation.
Gee, I hope nothing bad happens to her.
What? We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no!
So if it's a slasher film, then who's a slasher? They lay it on pretty thick that it's Jess's boyfriend Peter, who's acting more like his evil twin Retep.
My name is Retep, and I am evil!
But that turns out to be one big red herring. In actuality, the killer is bumbling cop Sergeant Nash. You see, he was merely pretending to be inept, bored of his position, hiding his true psychopathic identity behind a mask of stupidity, making him the scariest villain ever conceived. And I'm kidding, but could you imagine that?
I know. Something dirty, ain't it?
So the killer is literally just some guy who went a little nutso. He's not even a masked killer, we don't even see his legs. He's literally just a shadow and a POV, leaving the killer to be completely up to your imagination. He could have 2 peg legs like a pirate, we don't know, you don't know. Though we don't see him, we're blessed enough to hear him, and he sounds like your average member of r/braincells in a Pokemon Twitch chat. On my first viewing, I was disappointed by the lack of iconography. He's just a raving perverted maniac. But on rewatch, that's exactly what makes him creepy. I mean, his name might be Billy because he says that about 100 times, but maybe he's just quoting his favorite Jacksepticeye Happy Wheels video. We know nothing about him, other than he kinda looks like Griffin Dunn smoking on that evil pack. He's not marketable like Jason and Freddy. Who's going to buy the schizophrenic incel pop vinyl? Oh, never mind.
Mom, can you give me some money, please? Stop fucking around!
He's not iconic enough to be put in Dead by Daylight, but that enhances the creepiness. That's the problem with horror villains. The more you shine a spotlight on them, put them on merchandise, sell them to children, it retracts from their original creepiness. Don't get me wrong, I like horror pop culture, and it's just natural, especially as a franchise goes on, meaning they have to expand their characters, but Billy's lack of clear identity allows him to be very threatening, acting as a sort of substitute for any sexually violent male.
Could that be one person? No, Claire, that's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir doing their annual obscene phone call.
The fact he hides in the attic the whole time is especially eerie to me. It reminds me of those horrible true crime stories like the Villisca Axe murder house or the Hinnerkefek murders, or that time a homeless man was in my house. Stupid fucking homeless man. He belonged on the street getting addicted to fentanyl, not in the safety of my spacious shelter. Anyway, he's not completely one note either, as his backstory and motive are hinted at, although it's layered under schizobabble. Billy's constantly shifting emotions are notable, pleading for help one second, then screaming bloody murder the next. When he strikes, it sounds like he's genuinely in pain. It's haunting, really. He uses multiple voices, notably using Ignis and Billy. Call me crazy, but I think Billy didn't have the best relationship with his mother. Obviously, their back and forth is pretty reminiscent of Norman Bates, except we don't get that stupid scene at the end of Psycho where the guy comes in and explains the killer and motivation and everything. That's right, Hitchcock. Bob Clark, fucking director of Porky's, outdid you, you fat ass.
To fight in World War I, but couldn't do that. The British Army wouldn't let you join because you were too fat. Look it up, it's a true fact. Wikipedia that. Now allow me to attack Stephen the Hack.
One aspect I really like is that each character reacts somewhat realistically to the threat. Once they realize Claire is missing, everyone goes to the police to search for her. Even her boyfriend, who is actually concerned that his girlfriend is missing. I know that shouldn't be all that impressive, but in a slasher that is rare. I'm so used to the overly complacent victim who sits idly in the witch's cauldron, assuming it's a hot tub. Having them all band together to find Claire gives the characters more agency, and thus allows the story to flow better. Sure, at a certain point they do give up the search, but I'd say the film earns this moment by this point, as everyone did all they could do. Although they don't know the true gravity of the situation, there's a great build-up of fear. First searching for Claire, then finding the little girl dead in the park, there's this looming dread that's slowly put over our cast as they assume the worst. While the characters are still traditionally picked off one by one, our characters are still more proactive in finding out what's going on. Culminating in the fantastic ending where Jess, the police, and the killer are all on their phones, trying to track this guy down. only to find out he was right above them the whole time. It's the peak of the film. It only happened because the characters tried to investigate the horror instead of running from it. That's an aspect that either makes or breaks a horror for me. Sure, I understand it can be scary for the victims to be completely ignorant to the danger. There's a lot of movies that do this well. I understand Hitchcock's old adage where he put a bomb under a family's dinner table just to prove how fucked up and twisted he is. Although for me, a horror story becomes especially compelling when the characters are expecting something to be lurking in the shadows. It creates more paranoia and puts you in the same mindset as the characters, where you feel you're being watched. The horror is enhanced by the amazing sound design and playful cinematography. My pretentious hat is really coming on for these next few parts, but bear with me. There's little use of non-diegetic music, and instead are eerie soundscapes and the twisted outbursts of our killer. I'd compare it to the foreboding atmosphere in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The cinematography really takes its time as well and lets you loom on important shots, rarely using quick cutting. Honestly, I'd lump this in with both Texas Chainsaw and Halloween. They all have fairly simple plots with a focus on atmosphere and were released around the same time, helping to create the slasher genre as we know it today. Slasher? I hardly know. Beyond being a great horror film, I argue it hides important subtext. Now it's time to get really fucking pretentious and put on my deep analysis diaper. So the key failing of our characters is that no one ever checks the attic. I mean, there's a guy screaming and knocking shit around, yet the only time someone goes to check is when they hear a cat. The bodies are piling up, yet the police are so oblivious to what's hidden in plain sight. I believe this works as a metaphor for domestic abuse, violence which is perpetuated behind closed doors, overlooked by society. This further contrasts the holiday setting, hiding this violence behind a time when families are forced to be together and seem happy, just as Barb's murder is hidden behind the carols of children, distracting Jess from helping her friend. Furthermore, this violence is subtly blamed on our female protagonists. When Claire goes missing, Nash assumes that she's probably off sleeping with another man. The sorority's morality is often questioned by Claire's father. Obviously, with him being an uptight prude, he is disgusted by the vulgarity of the sorority's house, assuming his daughter has been transformed into a sinner. Then Barb is blamed in part for Claire's disappearance, as she was the one who fought back against the killer on the phone, seen as her provoking him. Lastly, the audience and John Saxon believe Peter to be the culprit, because he had shown signs of being deranged after finding out Jess was pregnant and thinking of getting an abortion. This becomes the assumed motivation for the mass killing spree. As such, this puts partial blame on Jess as well, positioning her choice as the root of all the murders. In conclusion, the film reflects themes that domestic violence is often overlooked, and that society will blame women for the exact crime they are a victim to. Sorry, that got a bit dour at the end there. I'm sure people wanted brain rot shitposts mixed with deep text analysis. So glad I'm getting a degree in the flickering funnies. So yeah, that was Black Christmas. If you couldn't tell, I really like it. Although I'm sure the two reboots, which came out decades later, improved the original tenfold. So if I'm gonna get a real opinion, I need to ask the big man himself. That's right, my guest for our Christmas special, ladies and gentlemen, is the jolliest man in the North Pole,
Gay people.
Gay people tomorrow morning.